Welcome to the Deep Dive, your daily journey into current events where we cut through the noise and get straight to the core of what's happening. I'm Nick, your host, ready to explore with you.
And I'm Pi, here to help connect the dots and explore the underlying currents of the day's most critical stories. You're diving in with us on this update, Friday, September 12, 2025. And just a quick note for all our curious minds out there. You can find this deep dive and all our other broadcasts available on Rumble.
Today we're unpacking a truly electrifying and potentially dangerous situation that has Europe really on edge. An alleged drone attack in Poland. It's kicked off a diplomatic firestorm, not least because we're faced with wildly conflicting narratives. Was it an act of aggression, a simple technical glitch, or something far more complex and calculated? Maybe something aimed at reshaping the whole geopolitical landscape.
We're sifting through a stack of sources today, reports, official denials, and some deeply held suspicions surrounding these drones over Poland. What's fascinating here, I think, is how multiple, often contradictory perspectives emerge, challenging us to look far beyond the surface headlines. We're going to explore precisely what each side is claiming, what the available evidence suggests, and what some are absolutely certain is the true hidden agenda behind it all.
Yeah, this isn't just about a few drones flying over a border, This incident cuts right to the heart of global stability, the increasingly fragile state of NATO-Russia relations, and, well, the very delicate pursuit of peace. As we navigate this complex information battlefield, what stands out most to you as we try to make sense of it all?
Well, for me, it's the sheer impossibility of the official narrative once you dig in. But let's start at the beginning.
Okay, to really grasp the gravity here, we have to start with Poland's perspective. That's what really set things off, right?
Absolutely. Their account ignited the firestorm. Imagine the headlines. A key NATO ally claiming its airspace was breached by rogue drones.
And not just one or two. They reported 19 Russian drones illegally crossing into their territory. That's a significant number.
Exactly. And crucially, it wasn't some isolated event. It reportedly happened during a wider, pretty intense Russian attack on western Ukraine, right next door.
So the timing and location make it feel, well, coordinated, or
Right.
at least deliberately provocative.
That's certainly the implication in Poland's narrative, like a test of defenses or maybe even an extension of the conflict.
And then Poland claimed they actually had to shoot down some of these drones inside Polish territory. That's a huge step.
It really is an active military engagement on NATO soil. They identified them as foreign military assets and took action within their borders.
It's not just a flyover anymore. It's active defense. That signals a really severe threat perception.
Right. It blurs the lines. When does a breach become an attack? It demands an immediate, forceful international response.
And the response was fast, wasn't it? Triggering NATO's Article 4.
Super fast and super significant. Now, just to be clear for everyone listening, Article 4 isn't Article 5.
Right, not the Collective Defense Clause.
No, Article 5 is the attack on one is an attack on all. Article 4 is different, but still very serious. It's Poland formally telling all its NATO allies, hey, we see a significant threat here, we need to consult now.
So it signals they believe this is real and dangerous enough for the whole alliance to address immediately?
Precisely. It means Poland feels its security, maybe its territory or political independence, is genuinely threatened. It demands a unified alliance response, moving it beyond just Warsaw's problem to a collective strategic discussion involving all members.
It definitely underscores the gravity, putting everyone on notice. So if they triggered Article 4, they must have an objective beyond just, dealing with the drones themselves. What do our sources suggest Poland's endgame is here?
Yeah, you've hit on a crucial point. It's not just about the drones. It seems to be about leveraging this moment. The narrative Poland is pushing frames this as a direct, aggressive act by Russia, testing Polish air defenses, testing NATO's responsiveness. But beneath that, analyses in our sources suggest a bigger objective, pushing for more U.S. involvement in Ukraine.
How so? What kind of involvement?
Specifically, advocating hard for the U.S. to provide advanced air defense systems, and even more controversially, to establish a no-fly zone, particularly in western and central Ukraine.
Wow, a no-fly zone.
It's
That's a massive potential escalation, putting NATO potentially right up against Russian forces.
It is, and the idea is that this drone incident, this provocation against a NATO member, could be the liver.
Using Article 4 consultations to pressure President Trump.
Exactly. Trying to shift his focus from diplomatic efforts towards direct military protection for Ukraine. Our sources indicate this aligns with what some call Project Ukraine, that unwavering commitment to supporting Kyiv militarily and financially.
Seeing Ukraine's security as Poland's security, essentially.
Right. framed the drone incident as a direct Russian provocation against NATO, hoping to compel Trump into taking decisive action, broadening Western involvement. It's a strategic play.
Okay, so that's Poland's narrative and potential objective. But then came the counter-narratives. Let's start with Russia.
Right. Moscow's response was swift and, well, pretty predictable, a textbook diplomatic pushback. They dismissed Poland's claims outright.
How specifically?
Their embassy in Poland stated flatly that Poland hadn't presented any credible evidence the drones were Russian. And they added, pointedly, that there's no reason to expect they will provide evidence. That's not just denial, it's a challenge.
Putting the burden of proof back on Poland.
Precisely. Planting that seed of doubt. The Russian Ministry of Defense also chimed in.
What did they say?
They stated they had no plans to target anything in Poland. And they brought up the drone's range.
Ah, the range issue. That seems key.
Very key. They claimed the specific UAVs used in the Ukraine strikes have a maximum range of about 700 kilometers.
So their argument is it's geographically impossible for them to have reached Poland from relevant Russian launch sites.
That's their claim. They expressed, quote, puzzlement and said they were willing to consult, while noting Poland offered no proof of a Russian launch when their envoy was summoned.
And they called the claims completely groundless accusation.
Yep. Standard diplomatic playbook, but effective in creating that information fog, making a unified NATO response harder.
Okay, so Russia denies it. But then, it's Belarus.
Yeah.
Russia's closest ally throws this fascinating curveball into the mix.
Right. They don't deny or admit. They blame something else entirely. Electronic warfare, or EEW.
Electronic warfare, suggesting it wasn't deliberate action or accidental straying, but technological interference.
Exactly. Major General Pavel Murabiko, Belarus's chief of the general staff, claims sophisticated EW assets affected drones from both sides in the Ukraine conflict.
Both sides, so implying this is just battlefield chaos.
That's the implication, that these EW assets caused drones to go off their intended paths, widespread disruption. They even said Belarus had to shoot down wayward drones over their own territory, reinforcing this idea of uncontrollable interference.
It fundamentally challenges the idea of intent, doesn't it? Makes it hard to blame anyone if technology is just running wild.
It absolutely does. It suggests the drones weren't really guided by anyone, just lost in an electronic storm, a ghost in the machine.
So what kind of EW are we talking about? GPS spoofing? Jamming?
Both are possibilities. GPS spoofing tricks the drone's navigation makes it think it's somewhere else entirely, sending it way off course. Jamming can sever its communication link, cut off control. It might fly blind to its last waypoint or just crash.
And if EW was really involved, that gives everyone plausible deniability.
Huge deniability. Proving intent becomes incredibly difficult, maybe impossible, and that erodes deterrence, right? How do you respond if you can't be sure it was deliberate?
It creates that dangerous gray zone, testing red lines without clear attribution.
Exactly. Weaponizing ambiguity itself. Was it provocation, malfunction, interference? You can't be sure.
Which makes a clear, unified response incredibly hard. It really creates a technological fog of war.
And you have to ask, is this EW theory a genuine technical explanation or just a very convenient cover story?
Well, that leads perfectly into Europe's reaction, because they didn't seem to be buying the EW theory, did they?
Not at all. European leaders were pretty much united in calling it a deliberate, terrifying escalation. Their language was stark.
They directly refuted the oops accident or pesky EW ideas.
Directly. German Defense Minister Pistorius flat out called accidental deviation nonsense. He said the drones were quite obviously deliberately directed on this course in order to fly into Ukraine.
Implying the crossing into Poland was also intentional.
That was the strong implication, yes. Dismissing any technical glitch idea.
And the EU's High Representative, Kaja Kallas.
She went even further, called it the most serious European airspace violation by Russia since the war began. And she explicitly said, indications suggest it was intentional, not accidental, reinforcing that perception of deliberate aggression.
Did they call for specific actions?
Oh, yes. Raise the cost on Moscow, more sanctions, strengthen support for Ukraine, more aid, and invest in Europe's own defense, beefing up NATO's eastern flank.
So more sanctions, more aid to Kyiv, stronger NATO posture in the east.
Exactly. The unified, strong language signals deep concern, a pattern of provocation. It puts pressure on NATO for a firm response, but, without triggering World War III.
Their consensus definitely challenges the denial in EW narratives.
Absolutely. They're pushing for a response based on perceived deliberate aggression.
Okay, stepping back again. This whole drone incident lands like a ton of bricks right in the middle of global diplomacy,
Right.
especially President Trump's peace efforts. The timing is awkward.
Extremely awkward, especially with reports the invasion itself was intensifying despite his attempts to broker peace.
And Newsweek specifically said this complicates his efforts, right? Kind of derails the momentum.
Yeah, it does. He was reportedly frustrated already, threatening more sanctions on Russia to push for a deal.
But then this happens. Kiev and European allies must see this as a test of his resolve.
Undoubtedly. Does he stick to diplomacy, maybe looking weak to allies wanting a strong response? Or get tough, potentially jeopardizing his own peace track?
His reaction on Truth Social was telling. What's with Russia violating Poland's airspace with drones? Here we go. It sounded exasperated.
It really did, almost like he immediately suspected a false flag, like here we go again, a sense of manipulation.
And who he called afterwards seemed significant too. He didn't call Tusk Poland's leader, who's heavily invested in Project Ukraine.
Right. Instead, he reportedly called Nawrocki. Now, Nawrocki is also anti-Russia, but leans more towards a Poland-first approach.
Meaning, prioritizing Poland's direct interests, maybe wanting to scale back involvement in the broader Ukraine effort.
That seems to be the interpretation. Our sources suggest Trump was seeking the real lowdown, that he was on to what they're trying to do.
Implying he suspected manipulation to draw the U.S. deeper into the conflict, undermining his agenda.
Exactly. It shows deep skepticism about the official narrative coming out of Warsaw and Brussels.
Okay, this leads us directly into the false flag theory, which you hinted at earlier. Some analyses strongly suggest this wasn't Russia at all.
Yes, and this is where, for me, the pieces start to fit together in a way the official story doesn't. The analyses arguing for a false flag are detailed, compelling, the core idea. Yes, they were Russian Gerbeta decoy recon drones, but they were not launched from Russia.
Okay, unpack that for us. Why are these specific Gerbeta drones so important to this theory?
Because of what they are and what they do. They aren't attack drones. They're low-cost, expendable decoys or recon platforms. Russia uses them in swarms with attack drones. Their job is to confuse air defenses, make them waste expensive missiles, reveal their positions. They're meant to be shot down.
Like electronic chaff, almost.
Expendable.
Exactly. Their value is their presence, not their payload. And that expendable nature is key to the theory.
And the range issue comes back here, too. Russia said 700 kilometers max.
Crucially, Russia says they couldn't reach Poland from relevant launch sites, and they asked for proof of a Russian launch, which Poland apparently didn't provide. So the false flag theory suggests Ukraine collected these drones.
Over time, yes. The theory suggests Ukraine might have gathered a bunch of these Gerbetas that landed intact or were recovered after being shot down inside Ukraine. Good, bad drones, as one source put it.
And then repurpose them, launch them themselves.
That's the hypothesis. Equip them with a simple engine and propeller, they aren't complex, and launch them from somewhere much closer to Poland.
Like Western Ukraine, or even covertly from inside Poland.
Either is possible within this theory. It overcomes the range issue completely.
And the motive for Ukraine to do this?
To pressure the U.S. desperately, to get those advanced air defense systems, to push for that no-fly zone, especially after Article 4 was triggered. It's framed as a desperate plea from leadership in Kyiv for much more direct U.S. military help.
A way to force Washington's hand.
Exactly. A high-stakes gamble born of desperation, according to this analysis.
What supporting evidence or context backs up this false flag idea? Zelensky's reactions, for instance.
They're seen as a major piece of the puzzle. His reported panic statements, posting, "Don't believe the Russian disinformation," actively pleading for Patriots, F-35s, F-16s.
Specific high-end U.S. gear.
Right. Not just general calls for help. This specific, urgent demand for advanced weaponry is cited as evidence of desperation to escalate U.S. involvement immediately following the incident.
And then there's the Polish public opinion you mentioned earlier. That was striking.
Really striking. Those Res Futura polls, 38% believe Ukraine did it, 34% believe Russia. Almost an even split.
Plus others blaming Poland itself or the media or NATO.
Right. That level of public skepticism in the country supposedly attacked, it's significant. It undermines the official narrative right there on the ground and makes a unified response much harder.
It really suggests people aren't just accepting the official story at face value.
Not at all. There's clearly widespread doubt, maybe even a crisis of trust.
Then there's the strategic common sense argument against Russia doing this.
Yeah, this is a big one. If Russia is, as portrayed in these analyses, winning the conflict and has been meticulously careful for 4 years not to escalate beyond Ukraine.
Why would they suddenly send decoy drones into Poland now?
Exactly. Especially if they're supposedly wrapping up the special military operation. Why risk direct NATO intervention over a few decoy drones? It makes no sense at all from a strategic perspective.
It would seem like a monumental miscalculation.
A completely irrational move, risking everything they've supposedly gained.
And finally, the cost factor. This just seems bizarre.
Utterly bizarre. NATO reportedly spending €400,000 to shoot down 3 drones worth maybe 5,000 or 10,000 each.
It's economically nonsensical.
Wildly disproportionate. It screams that something else is going on. Is it a low-cost way to bleed NATO's expensive defenses? Weaponizing asymmetric costs?
Or does it suggest the act itself was the point, regardless of the intercept cost? A provocation where the reaction cost is part of the strategy.
That's the question. The sheer absurdity of the cost forces you to consider these other, more complex possibilities. It just doesn't add up as a simple border incursion.
So, summing all this up, what does it mean for the bigger picture? The risk of escalation seems terrifyingly real.
It does. As Newsweek noted, it inches 2 nuclear-armed sides closer to a direct conflict. We think of Cold War scares, but this feels different.
How so?
You've got the drones, the plausible deniability from EW, the instant global information war. It's a much more volatile mix.
A single miscalculation, a misinterpreted signal.
Could spiral incredibly quickly. The fog of war, amplified by technology and spin, makes de-escalation incredibly hard.
Which brings us back to NATO's response. Beyond Article 4 talks, what can they even do when the narrative is so contested? The ambiguity itself seems weaponized.
That's a perfect way to put it. Weaponized ambiguity. If EW is involved, or even just credibly claimed to be, it provides deniability. It erodes deterrence.
It creates that gray zone where red lines get tested without clear proof.
Exactly. It's not just jamming signals. It's jamming the ability to form a clear, unified response. It sows doubt on the global stage. And that ambiguity increases the risk of accidental, catastrophic conflict because clear communication is compromised. Navigating this needs extreme caution, clarity.
But clarity is exactly what's missing here, thanks to the information war.
Precisely. Every side spins its narrative, demanding critical thinking from all of us.
And the impact on global peace efforts, like Trump's, significant, surely.
Absolutely. It challenges his America First approach by forcing it up against NATO solidarity.
Puts him in a tough spot. Stick to diplomacy and look weak, or get tough and risk his own peace initiatives.
It's a classic dilemma, and allies are watching U.S. commitment very closely. They want a firm stance, but how do you achieve that when the facts themselves are so fiercely disputed?
It puts immense pressure on everyone involved, with really high stakes.
So today we've taken that deep dive into the Polish drone incident. We looked at Poland's claims of Russian aggression, their Article 4 trigger.
Then Russia's denials, Belarus's EW theory, Europe's unified condemnation.
And critically, that powerful, detailed argument for a Ukrainian false flag operation potentially aimed squarely at drawing the U.S. much deeper into the conflict.
We've seen how this one event is refracted through so many different lenses, highlighting not just the immediate crisis, but these deeper currents. Information war, strategic ambiguity, the incredibly delicate balance of power.
And the constant risk of inching closer to a much larger confrontation.
So, as you, our listeners, process all these conflicting narratives, maybe consider this. In an age where digital fog obscures intent, where tech offers plausible deniability, where spin is constant, how do we truly discern truth from manipulation?
And what responsibility do we have to demand clarity? Not just from adversaries, but from our own leaders, our own institutions. It's a vital question.
That's it for this deep dive. We really hope this exploration gives you a clearer, or at least a more nuanced understanding of this incredibly complex and volatile situation. If you found this insightful, please do take a moment to like and subscribe to our channel.
And if you'd like to support our daily deep dives, you can find our GoFundMe page linked right there in the description. Your support genuinely helps us keep these important conversations going.
Until next time.
Keep questioning, keep learning, and keep diving deep.